there, the way, if I'm reading this correctly, the province or Crown, no enforcement will occur unless requested in writing by the property owner. So I assume the property owner means the Crown or whatever. That's the way I interpret that. Well, I guess it's...
Okay. Any further discussion? We do have a staff recommendation on page 7. What's your wishes, Council? Councillor Wells.
Recommendation as contained on page 7.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Sonnenberg. Wells has moved. Sonnenberg has seconded. The staff report HSS 1809 Norfolk County Smoke-Free Outdoor Spaces bylaw be received as information, and that Council approve the revised draft bylaw as included in this report. Discussion? If not, those in favor of the resolution? That's carried. Thank you. On to our council meeting minutes. There are 2 sets in front of you, page 15. Our council budget meeting minutes from January 24th and 25th, 2018, as well as the closed session minutes of the 24th. January distributed separately to us. Also, page 21, our regular council meeting minutes from 2 weeks ago. That was January the 30th, 2018. Is there anything in there that you want to bring to my attention? If not, I will declare those meeting minutes adopted as printed. We have a number of communication items, beginning on page 35. First one is from Tom Sartor. This is a request for a grant of the Port Dover Community Hall for a 2018 Christmas luncheon again this year. I'm going to read the resolution and have discussion on it. Yes, Councillor Wells, you okay with that? Moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Columbus, at the request for usage of the Port Dover Community Hall for a 2018 Christmas luncheon be approved, and that a grant in the amount of the rental rate be charged to the mayor and council grants budget. Councillor Wells, to the motion, please.
I just make a comment, Mr. Mayor. I had the pleasure of attending this event, and it's certainly very well received by the community of Norfolk County. And for those people who think that it is only for Port Dover residents, that is a misconception. There were people from all parts of Norfolk County attending this very successful event, and there's no charge, and that's why they are asking for a waiver of fees. And obviously, there's still charge, as we all know. It comes out of taxpayers' dollars, but the people who are attending do not have to pay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Second item of communications is from the Lions Club of Waterford, from Matt Suckle. This is for the LCBO special occasion permit request. It's been moved by Councillor Brunton, seconded by Councillor Wells, at the request of the Lions Club of Waterford for a special occasion permit for the Lion Steak Barbecue fundraiser on April 28th, 2018 be approved, subject to receipt of all required approvals. Any discussion here? Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next is communication from Judy Maxwell, Acting General Manager of LPRCA, and this is the Flood Contingency Plan. It's been moved by Councillor Columbus, seconded by Councillor Geisen, that the correspondence of Judy Maxwell, Acting General Manager of the Long Point Region Conservation Authority, be received as information. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, those in favor? Those opposed? It's carried. Thank you. On to page 61, some communications from Tina Canonico. This is a request for a streetlight installation. The resolution has been moved by Councillor Columbus, and that's for referral to staff to be put on their scheduling. I need a seconder. Mr. Oliver, thank you, sir. Moved by Columbus, seconded by Oliver, that the correspondence of Tina Canonico respecting street lighting installation be referred to staff to be included in future installation scheduling. Councillor Black.
Well, are we approving that streetlight?
No, we're approving that it go on to the scheduling list that we have
All
for
right,
consideration, but I'll let our staff respond to your
Well,
question.
yeah, I would be interested to know, there must be a criteria, right?
Through the mayor to council, council will recall that fairly recently you approved a policy for where streetlights go and where they don't, what criteria that they meet. So if it's just referred back to apply to the appropriate policy, it will go through the appropriate process, and if it meets the criteria, one will be installed, and if not, the resident will be advised.
Any other questions? You've heard the resolution. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Communication Z is from Maurice Verhoeven, and this is a request for new municipal service introduction respecting sidewalk clearing. It's been moved by Columbus, seconded by Geisens, that the correspondence of Maurice Verhoeven be received for information. Councillor Geisens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll talk to Mr.
Microphone, please.
Sorry, I apologize. Mr. Verhoeven has talked to me as well, and right now, with all the snow that we've had, we probably have about 4 feet on the sidewalk. So I've talked to Lee, and she said that once they get going, that they will be taking care of that. So hopefully, we won't get that much more snow. So it's something that needs to be done. You can't even go through with, if somebody had to shovel some of the older people there are some even younger people that would have a hard time because that thing is like a block of ice. So I'm hoping that we can clear that off and bring it at least back to the sidewalks can be used rather than the road. So I'm hoping that
Further discussion? If not, I'll call the question to receive as information. Those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Yes, Councillor Black, go ahead.
Maybe I should have said during the motion, but I know we've had this come back to us a number of times, and I did ask when Bill Cridlin was with the Roads Department. Bill did bring a report back a few years ago in regards to how much would it cost the municipality to plow all the sidewalks in our, I'm not sure what he included, whether he included just the urban areas or whether he included Langton, but nonetheless, it's council did not support that at the time, and I think because of the horrendous cost when Bill brought it back, cost to purchase equipment, and then the operating costs are, I think, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. It would be nice if we could do it, but it's very costly.
Councillor Columbus.
Mr. Mayor, just a comment. We've always talked about sidewalks and subdivisions that don't have sidewalks. And you remember there was petitions came forward from Delhi, didn't want sidewalks. And if you're just driving around the last couple of days, you've seen sidewalks that have been filled in with the snow plow, lots of snow on them. Some haven't been cleaned. Others that have been cleaned are just layered with ice. And when you're walking on those sidewalks, it's a lot safer to walk on the road than it is on the sidewalk. And perhaps that's one reason not to have sidewalks, because the road is much safer to walk on. You got better foot stability.
I'm just going to offer a comment, Councillor Black. My recollection, don't quote me, was the cost to buy equipment to remove snow from all of our urban county-owned sidewalks was in the neighborhood of $800,000 plus, I believe. And then there was an estimated cost, I think, of somewhere around $80,000 or $90,000 in labor to do it, depending on the year. And last year, I used my snowblower twice, all winter. This year I've used it as much as 3 times in one day. People are sick of snow. There's just not enough room to dump it on. There's just too much snow, and yet you could, if we had a winter like this every year, I could say let's look into an investment. But if we had a lot of winters like last year, the equipment was sitting in the barn. Anyhow, that's just a comment. It's be glad when spring is here, believe me. Let's go to the reports of committees. Page 65, please. These are committee meeting minutes of last week. It's been moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Geisens, that the minutes of the council and committee meeting of February the 6th, 2018 be approved, with the exception of resolution number 14, which is pulled for further discussion. So any discussion on everything but resolution 14? Councillor Wells, please. Do you know which one that is? I'm just, sorry, I'm just I see it. It's resolution well, there isn't a motion. Yeah, I think so too, yeah. What I'm going to do is, if you're just speaking to it, we won't need a resolution. Any comments on everything but resolution 14? You have the floor. Microphone? You're okay.
Be making a recommendation, Mr. Mayor,
Well,
to ask for money for that organization.
it wasn't separate. Unless the resolution is pulled, and again, it's not a resolution, unless it's pulled, it's not debatable.
Well, I'd like it pulled then.
Pardon?
I'd like it pulled.
Well, right now I don't have a written motion to pull it. We'll just make sure we get it procedurally correct. That's what I'm concerned about.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in order to get this item considered,
Yes.
you would have had to have pulled the motion to receive the deputation as information, because that's the only relevant resolution that committee passed. And the deadline for that would have been 3 p.m. yesterday per the procedural bylaw. So what you would have to do is seek council to do a 2/3 waive of order, the rules of order, in order for that to be pulled at this period.
Councillor Wells?
That being the case, I would ask you to poll council to allow this to be debated.
Council members, you've heard the request from Councillor Wells. He would like us to give him an opportunity to consider, debate what we received as information of last week's deputation, number 7 on page 70. So I will ask for those that support reconsidering item 7. Those in favor? For those opposed? We need a 2/3 majority? Yeah, so your motion is lost.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll just hold on that. Yes, Councillor Height?
Mayor Luke, you mentioned pulling resolution 14, didn't you? It's
We
actually,
have a motion that we're going to deal with 14 separately.
it's 13, isn't it? Page 69?
Well,
FCM, right?
it's resolution number 14, and there's also resolution It's 13 and 14. No, it's 14. It's 14. Yeah, it is 14. They're both the same topic, but it is 14 specifically. Okay? Yeah, 13 was the appointment of the county solicitor, and then the next item, yeah, that E, I don't like that E there. Oh, well, it certainly was a separate item from 12D. Okay, anything else on the council and committee meeting minutes of February the 6th, with the exception of Resolution 14? Hearing none, those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. Thank you. You can have that. Let's go to Resolution 14. That has been asked to be dealt with separately. The bottom of page 69, and the rest of the resolution is on the top of page 70. What are your wishes here? I have resolution but no mover seconder, so we can't discuss it until we get some sort of motion on the table. Councillor Black, then Oliver, go ahead.
I know I seconded it last week. I'll move it this week.
As printed.
Yes.
Councillor Oliver? I'm not going to read it unless you want me to. It's there, you know what it says. Discussion. Councillor Wells.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'll not be supporting the resolution that's on the floor, and I have some reasons for that. Mr. Mayor, I guess I was very surprised when I saw that the Chief Executive Officer was in favor of this. And what surprised me most, the more I thought of it, the more surprised I was. Staff, of which he is a part, and a large part of that, just spent several months preparing the budget request for our council deliberations. And I'm sure after much debate, all items were reviewed, debated, evaluated, and prioritized. Then these needs were presented to council. Now, in less than 1 month after all that debate, after the budget was passed, we have a request for a budget amendment of $14,000. My position is quite clear. If this item was so important, it should have been included in the staff's budget request and debate. Council refused conference request from Ms. Robinson. Council refused 2 budget requests from the fire chief. Now all of a sudden, the budget is passed and it's okay to approve another budget request that was not included in our budget debate. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's fair to those people who went through the process and did it correctly. I'm not debating whether this is worthy or not. That's not my point. My point was we have a process. And if this is so important, we've done without it for 18 years, I think we can do without it for another year and bring it forth in the new budget debate next year. But not now. That's unfair to our staff, and it's unfair to council to put us in that awkward position. We did exactly the same thing last year. We approved the budget. Just as soon as the budget was approved, we had a budget request for ambulance beds or whatever they were. Thank you, which I think was several hundred thousands of dollars. So what do we spend, and why does staff continually tell us how much work they put in to prepare the budget only to have it changed after we pass it? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've done my rant.
The other discussion? Councillor Black?
Well, Councillor Wells is I consider him my friend, but I have to point out that he just moved a motion that it was exactly the same as what he's arguing against. and that is procedurally, the Port Rowan South Walsingham group would have had to have waited until next year, to go through that procedure. But no, we as a council decided that we could intervene and through a 2/3 vote and pass that. So we bypassed the budget process on that motion. And now, the next one, here we are. I see his point, but I also see the value of being a member of FCM. It's no different than AMO. We probably should have been a member of FCM some time ago. There is value in that. The report indicated it, that there is a possibility of getting grants, so we could make some money through our $10,000. Plus, you have to have some representation at these functions. And, at AMO, any counselor can go to AMO, like all of us could go all at once, and some staff members go to that. So in this instance, all we're asking for, or all CAO is asking for, are 2 people to go. Granted, it's a long ways away, but that's what FCM is all about. Those meetings will take place in various provinces, different years. So in passing this, we have to be prepared to put some money in the budget to go to, whether it's Vancouver or Toronto or Halifax, if we're going to be full participants in FCM and benefit from the opportunities that they afford, then that's what we'll have to do.
Councillor Height, please.
Thank you, Mayor Luke. After when I got checking into this, I remember our staff, they said that there would be some grant funding available should we get in on this movement. And I'm wondering, will we receive a report in a year's time with the applications filed and how much money we did get back from staff when this comes back up again?
The short answer is yes, assuming you pass this. But really, the more important answer, I think, to Councillor Height, if I may, is that on February 20th, you will be receiving a report that the General Manager of Public Works, the General Manager of Financial Services, and myself have been laboring on for some period of time now with respect to the asset management program. And this report is the key building stone to the one you get in a week's time, and becomes critical in making a decision this council is going to be obligated to make with respect to how we deal with a very large budget item and a very important endeavor and undertaking. So a whole bunch of that is predicated on us attempting to get to access this money pool. It will become abundantly apparent to you through a number of things I believe this corporation is going to undertake this calendar year. This will be front and center. So, I mean, yes, if you need a literal straight line report, we can do that, but you'll be interacting with these numbers and this function very shortly. This is the setting stone for a much bigger piece.
Not requiring the $600 answer, Mr. Cribbs. We will be getting a report in 1 year's time. There are numerous funds here, and one of them is a waste reduction. Asset management doesn't pay a whole lot. Downtown revitalization pays some. We're already in line. There's 3 streams right here, right now, and one's not going to be good enough. Not for me.
With respect, that's a reductionist logic that isn't the basis of the report and is not the basis upon which I make this submission to council. It's not like we're only here for money. There are a number of important issues FCM is dealing with. We're not even mentioning the cannabis file. It costs money to have a seat at the table. We are attempting to become part of the national dialogue on any number of important issues with respect to Norfolk County, and I can't guarantee outcomes in less than a year. We're already into the 2nd month of the year. I do apologize to Councillor Wells. I appreciate this is very close to the budget. It's very early, but for us to get moving forward on the asset management planning, it had to come early so that you can get the next reports so that we can start on those steps. This is more than just dollars and cents, though. To only look at this as money is to be missing a lot of the point. I don't know how to put a dollar value on us being part of the national cannabis conversation, But the federal government is one of two governments that's going to pass all the rules with respect to cannabis. We know this is a critical issue for the community. Right now, we have no seat at the table. I won't be able to prove or disprove that Norfolk County influenced the outcome of that. I can just say whether we do or don't have a seat at the table, and then whether or not we will attempt to have meetings with the minister. I think it would benefit Norfolk County if we can speak with the Minister of Agriculture and or the Attorney General, who are passing the federal portion of the rules on cannabis. I don't know how to put a dollar value on that. I do know that we want to access the financial programs, particularly with respect to asset management planning. And like you say, there are other opportunities there. But in less than a year, I don't know that I can demonstrate. It's not a straight line. It might be a straight line with respect to asset management planning. With those others, I don't know. I want this council, ideally, if you support this notion, to understand that it's a big picture, it's got a lot of tentacles, but it's a positive step. And right now, we have no seat at the table. This year, the table's in Nova Scotia. But regardless of where the table is, we have no say, we have no voice. And this organization is advocating with the government with which we currently have no say and no voice on a number of issues, some of which have monetary and financial benefits potentially, but others have nothing to do with money and are still critically important. I just want to make that point. This is not just about money. I'd be very happy to write a report to council indicating what we do or don't obtain, but I think it would miss a lot of the point.
Anything further? Councillor Wells?
Mr. Mayor, two comments. One, Councillor Black is correct. It seemed as if I was speaking with forked tongue, so to speak. But there's quite a difference between a community volunteer group asking for money than the county manager who has been part of the budgeting process. I'm not debating whether we should join the organization or not. I am objecting to the way it was done. That's it.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councillor Brunton?
Thank you, Mayor Luke. I supported Councillor Wells on this issue, and I think I will still support his recommendation. This is exactly how we get in trouble. This is $14,000, and if you recall, I think Councillor Height asked for the feedback on the last 5 years of our expenditures in terms of tax levy or whatever that went over. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Cribbs, $3 million in 2017 or 16 we went over budget. And it's all these little things, and this is just the start of the year. They add up. And somebody's got to be watching the finances. And I'm sure, James, that's your job. And if we run into these situations again, let's put the brakes on. Let's put the brakes on, because $3 million in my eyes is a lot of money, and I'm sure we had to make that up the following year. Did you see that memo that came out from, I think Kathy LaPlante sent it out just last week?
Sorry, if I may. The last two numbers for which we have full data was more than $500,000 finishing in the red in 2015, and $3 million, just a few dollars shy of $3 million in 2016. We don't yet have the data for 2017.
Right.
But if I may also respond to the other comment with respect to timing, if nothing else, look, the budget, this corporation never stops operating. We spend $572,602.74 a day. That doesn't include the rate. That's just operating capital. So ignoring rate spending, $572,000 rocks out this corporation effectively on average per day. We never stop. We're constantly moving. It's a very complicated organism. What happened is that in October, this council instructed my office that one of the things I was to look at in the next 12 months is asset management planning. On December the 1st, to comply with that instruction, the county treasurer and I, General Manager of Financial Services and I, did attend an asset management conference in Toronto, at which I learned about the financing opportunity through FCM, having no previous knowledge of that. The problem with the budget is we have to put a cutoff day where you just can't add anything more, because it would never stop. Every day we go through $572,000 with the money, and there are constantly new opportunities and new problems and challenges arising. At some point, you have to stop with that budget. So we do on December the 6th. In those 5 days, we had a weekend, we had a council meeting. I just didn't have time to turn my mind to try to come up with a fulsome plan on information I'd only learned on the 1st. So by the 6th, the absolute drop-dead date for our budget from staff perspective, there's no way to have that turnaround happen and add that item to the budget. Worked on it in December, worked on it in January, brought you a report as quickly as we can. It's a $14,000 item, which I think will bring enormous benefit to this corporation. But with respect to why it isn't in the budget, we just have to have a drop-dead date because we could constantly add to it. And that was, we couldn't meet that day of the 6th because, at least to my mind, I'm not sure Mr. Johnson was aware of it either, we both had the eureka moment while we were sitting there listening to the presentations from the provincial people and from FCM at that conference on asset management planning, which again is something you've instructed us to do and you're going to hear a lot more about next week. But this is us doing the very best we can to comply with very tight timelines, and that's why when you follow that through, we got this in front of you as quickly as we could. We couldn't meet the budget timeline. Here we are.
Well, on just another note, Mayor Luke, we've asked at the budget session for a further cut of $400,000. We're waiting for that to show up, where that money will come from. Yeah, we're adding 14 already, so I guess it's safe to say we're down to $386,000 cut if we approve this tonight. I do the math, right? Anyways, thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion? The motion is to amend the operating budget, tax levy budget, to the tune of $13,900 for FCM membership and $3,800 for the FCM conference. Any other discussion on the motion? The motion by Black and Oliver is for approval of this. To the motion, Mr. Oliver, please, Councillor Oliver, and then Columbus.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm just confused by those numbers you just gave us. I recalled from the discussion 2 weeks ago that the full amount of the request was $13,900. Is that what you just said?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, there was 10-1 and 3,900.
Yep, thank you very
Yep,
much.
that's okay. We got to be clear. Councillor Columbus, please. Probably better if I don't talk, and then you won't be as confused. If you think you're confused, let's have a look up here. Any other discussion? I'm going to call the question. Those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Tourism and Economic Development Advisory Board minutes, page 73. This is from their January 29th, 2018. It's been moved by Councillor Columbus, seconded by Councillor Height, that the minutes of the Tourism and Economic Development Advisory Board meeting of January 29th, 2018 be received as information. Any discussion? Those in favor? Carried. As I mentioned earlier, we'll leave our public meetings, of course, till the scheduled time of 5 o'clock. I'm over on reports of council members. Are there any reports from council members sitting on advisory committees or committees where you're appointed by council? Hearing none. We'll leave the bylaws until after the public meeting. I am now on item 13 on page 193. Yes, Councillor Oliver?
Mr. Mayor, I've not had to do this before. May I request that we have a 5-minute recess
Absolutely. That's an order.
just before we continue on with our agenda?
Sure.
Does that need a seconder?
No,
or?
no, I can declare a 5-minute recess.
Okay.
Correct? Let's have a stretch and start right back at 20 to 5. Thank you. please. I am on page 193. This is a motion. It's a request for the province to reopen the natural gas grant program. It's been moved by Councillor Oliver, seconded by Councillor Columbus. Whereas in the fall of 2017, Norfolk County was unsuccessful in securing grant funding to expand Union Gas services to Turkey Point, and whereas the Ministry of Infrastructure received a large response to their Ontario Natural Gas Grant Program, and whereas Norfolk County proposes that at the same time as the gas extension fiber technology be extended to Turkey Point, and whereas Norfolk County has committed to a minimum 10-year forgiveness of taxes related to the Union Gas line, therefore be it resolved that Norfolk County Council requests that the Ministry of Infrastructure open another round of funding for the natural gas grant program, and that copies of this resolution be sent to the Minister of Infrastructure, the Premier of Ontario, and the leaders of the opposition and the local MPP. Councillor Oliver, please, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate Councillor Columbus seconding this. I think everyone, we all realize around council this is a provincial election year. The natural gas program, grant program was very successful. We weren't successful getting one, unfortunately, but I think, and this was suggested to us, that something we could add our voice to the many voices to try and get them to consider adding another extension, or I should say at least an extension to the natural gas program. So I hope council will support this motion.
Any other discussion? Councillor Oliver, I want to thank you for bringing this forward. Very important issue for the county. Councillor Brunton?
Thanks, Mayor Luke. Was this the application that we had to forgive 10 years of taxes on that issue?
Yes, Councillor Brunton, it was part of that. We, with the applications that the province wanted, the municipalities had to be in partnership with a utility, in our
Right.
case Union Gas, and we had to show what kind of a commitment we were prepared to put towards the ultimate
and that
cost
was-
of the project. And that was the 10-year deferral of new tax revenue.
Okay. And I recall when we dealt with that issue that I had asked the gentlemen that were here that night from the gas company, I believe, what kind of budget there was to do that project, and they didn't give us an answer at that time. And I'm just wondering if they must have those figures by now, and if that application does move forward, do you think we could get that information? We should ask for it. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Height, we're considering the motion on the floor, which is printed on page 193, okay, just so you know what we're voting on. Any other discussion on the motion? If not, those in favor? Those opposed? That is carried. I know what you're going to say, but Mr. Mayor, we just had a break. Why do we need another one? We will start our public meeting at 5 o'clock when we are to deal with several applications. So I would suggest we break until 5 o'clock. Thank you.